So welcome to Module 12. This is the virtual classroom presentation for November 28th, Tuesday. This is EDU 417, P and H, and PEP 417. This is the Methods, Materials, and Observation course for physical education, health education, and coaching. We are in Module 12, Managing Your Team, and we are specifically working in Chapter 8, Managing Athletes' Behavior. So as you follow along with Module 12, we'll give you some tips. Make sure, if you haven't yet, look at the Chapter 8 activity, the Chapter 8 journal activity. So pause this, look at the Chapter 8 journal activity. If you hit the audio icon here, you can go slide by slide and hit the audio icon. But if you go up at the top and hit slideshow and go to presentation mode and present, it will just go along and present to you and automatically play the audio and move slide to slide when each audio is done. So, when each audio clip's done. But pause this, go to your assignments into Canvas and go to the Chapter 8 in Module 12 and open up the journal activity. Basically, you're going to take notes from this PowerPoint, just like you would in the classroom, and you're going to use those questions to take your notes from while you're watching this. If you don't, then you're going to have to go back through and take the notes. All right. We will get started on Chapter 8, Managing Your Athlete's Behavior, in this virtual presentation that replaces the face-to-face classroom presentation for Tuesday, November 28th. So we are in our coaching unit that has our last three modules. Module 10 was Principles of Coaching, where we talked about our philosophy, setting our goals or objectives, and selecting your primary coaching style and how you blend all the other styles together. Module 11, we discussed coaching character and motivation, how we develop character within our athletes, how we build our team climate and culture, how we wanted to motivate our athletes and use psychology. And then now we're going to get into how we want to manage our team in Module 12. That'll be managing your athlete's behavior, how we want to do that through setting up policies, procedures, routines, setting up team rules, selecting some leadership within our team, using assistant coaches, team captains, all those different things we want to do. And then we'll talk about next time in Chapter 18, we'll talk about managing our team and all the management functions you'll have to do to effectively lead or manage your team. So today we will focus in, make sure you look at the Module 12 information page. Hopefully you've read Chapter 8 by now, Manage Your Team, Your Athlete's Behavior. Read Chapter 18 for next time, Managing Your Team, and look at all the information in Module 12. There's some different information pages about with the different virtual lectures involved in it as well. So make sure, once again, look at all the different resources. Inside Out Coaching by Joe Ehrman, NAIA Champions of Character program. I have all the different resources in the module information pages. You can download some of those different resources I handed you out. Hopefully you kept them in your portfolio. Those resources I gave you, I have those as well as probably about double that amount in the coaching modules in the different information pages. Go through, and before you lose access to this course, if you're a graduating senior, otherwise you'll have it on your Canvas for a while. Take some time, get you a USB drive and download a lot of those resources. And you can keep those. They're good templates to use as letters or team rules or different things in your coaching future. If you ever plan on coaching, even if you don't, you never know when you might. Try to download some of those resources and use them in the future. But today we're going to work on policies, procedures, things you can do to manage or lead athletes' behavior, and then that corresponds with Chapter 8 of the textbook. And we'll talk about all that management and leadership during this module. So our Module 12 activities. You'll start out with your textbook reading. For today's virtual lecture, you should have read Chapter 8, Managing Your Athlete's Behavior. If you haven't read it yet, go ahead and try to read that. This information, some of the high points, and fills in some of the gaps. For next time, Chapter 18, Managing Your Team. There's a lot of chapters we skipped over. We picked out some of the high points. I think we had about 7 of the chapters of 18 or 19 chapters of the book. Hopefully you bought this textbook or have lifetime access to it if you bought it online. If not, you can get this or an older version, used version. Buy this and keep this in your coaching library, and consider maybe over a break or some other time reading some of those other chapters. If you ever plan on coaching, this is a very practical book. It's written easy to read, so read some of those other chapters and learn about philosophy and different things. A lot of these different functions and areas of coaching that you go into. But for this purpose, hopefully you read Chapter 8. If not, read that in the next day or two, and then prepare yourself reading Chapter 18 to learn about all those management functions. And then listen to the virtual lectures. I have the audio embedded into these PowerPoint presentations. When you open the PowerPoint presentation, if you go to the top and hit Slideshow and click to start from the beginning, and it should come up on your screen, and really the slides will start playing the audio and they will advance when the audio ends. You can hit pause on there if you're taking your notes. Otherwise, if you just want to go slide by slide, you can, but you're going to have to click the little gray speaker looking icon at the top and hit play to let it play, and then when it goes through, you'll have to advance to the next slide and do that each slide. So listen to the virtual audio portion and read through all the information on each of the slides. Complete the journal activities for each of these. There's a Chapter 8 journal activity and a Chapter 18 journal activity. And basically what they are is there's going to be several questions on the journal activities. You should open those up before you start the presentation. And they're basically questions to prompt you to take notes just like you would in the classroom setting. So they're going to ask you the high points off of each presentation. Some of it's going to be the stuff that you see on the screen, and some of it will be some of the audio that might not be on the screen, to make sure you have some integrity to pay attention to the presentation. So it's basically you're going to then turn that in, and it would be how well you take notes based on the questions on the presentation. So you'll submit that on the days that the virtual presentation would take place, Tuesday and Thursday. They're due by 8 o'clock that evening. And then you'll also have your assignment for each of the 2 virtual presentation days, and I'll go over those, each of the presentations. They'll be due the following day. Make sure if you haven't yet, you've completed your observation. It's wrapping up here. Turn in your final observation log. Make sure you've got either your 20 hours for the health education version or PE or your coaching observation. You have to have all 20 hours completed by the deadline, and have the hours logged on the official log sheet and signed in. Do not turn in anything incomplete. Make sure it's signed and you have integrity with that. Turn that in. It's due on Friday. And then turn in your signature assignment of the observation reflection. You have to have the observation log fully completed and submitted, or the signature assignment won't be accepted. Follow that outline closely and make sure your observation reflection follows the assignment guide and details the observation with examples. And then if you haven't yet, start working on that final project, your personal philosophy of coaching. You should be able to have about 2/3 of that done if you want to already. And then after today's presentation, you'll only have one more presentation left to add in the last couple things to that personal philosophy of coaching. That is a basically summative activity for your coaching unit that ties in everything you learn in Module 10, 11, and 12, and is a cumulative summative activity to help you pull everything together and apply your learning in a philosophy type statement. So you need to look at the instructions closely on that. It points you back to some of your activities that you've done throughout this chapter, or points you to the specific modules that information could help you prepare. You can't really copy and paste your philosophy. Like I said, that's got to be a working thing that you believe through your values, and work on that. So make sure you're working on that and you get that in by the due date. We got to get all of these things in the last couple weeks in. There's not really, there's very limited grace periods, if any. So here is our Chapter 8 objectives. And this is what we're going to talk about today, managing athletes' behavior. We should, at the end of today's lesson, be able to do these following things. We should be able to summarize, synthesize, and explain the positive discipline approach. That ties into the Missouri Teaching Standards 2, 5, and 6, as well as the Lincoln University Health and Wellness Standards 1, 2, and 5. We want to recognize, identify, and distinguish between the two types of mistakes or misbehaviors that athletes make. And then once we do that, we need to formulate ways that coaches can help athletes learn from their mistakes. That ties into the MTS Standards 2, 5, and 6, and the Lincoln University Health and Wellness Standards 2 and 5. Next, we want to compare, contrast, differentiate, and cite evidence on the positive discipline approach, as well as the punishment approaches, to then hypothesize the most productive alternative. That ties into MTS 2, 5, and 8, and LUHWS 1, 2, and 5. We should be able to identify, explain, and discuss the 6 steps of preventative discipline. That's MTS 2, 5, 6, and 8, and LUHWS 1, 2, 3, and 5. We should also be able to summarize and explain the progressive discipline and apply this approach in the development of consequences for team rules. So we're going to develop some team rules. And then we should construct a program to provide rewards for positive behavior. And that'll also tie into MTS Standard 2 and 4 and LUHWS Standard 2, 4, and 5. So at the end of the day, it looks like we're going to pull all this information in on managing athletes' behavior using progressive discipline approach, consequences for team rules, rewards for positive behavior, to develop some rules for our team. So that's how we will apply the information we've learned throughout the chapter and today. In the journal activity for Chapter 8, basically look at the assignment information first and then the Chapter 8 journal activity questions next. Listen to the virtual lecture. It's embedded in the PowerPoint presentation with audio files for each slide. There's 2 ways to go about it. You can open the journal activity from Canvas. You can copy and paste that into a Word document, and you can put that on one side of your screen or on your laptop, and then you can watch the presentation into another screen or the other side of the screen or from another device. When you open the PowerPoint, you can hit slideshow up at the top, hit from beginning, and hit play. And if it starts playing, as soon as the audio file for each slide gets done, it will go to the next slide and continue to play all the way through like a movie. Or if you just want to open the PowerPoint like a traditional PowerPoint, there's going to be a little gray speaker icon in the top left. Click on that, and you might have to hit the arrow to play or hit play, and it will play the audio file. You can take notes on it, whatever the case, and then you'll have to move to the next slide, and you'll have to play the audio file for each specific slide. But what you should do is complete your journal activity while you are listening, watching the virtual lecture that's embedded in the PowerPoint. So what you're going to do is, this specific journal activity has 11 questions. They're pretty much in order, the way that the PowerPoint's made. And you're going to do this basically like you're taking notes. So provide a detailed, college-level, well-written, and factually correct answer to the questions based on the presentation and or the textbook readings. You need to number your questions and answers, and basically it's going to ask you information from the presentation and take it just like you would take notes. Explain the 2 most important factors for managing athletes' behaviors. When you get to that in the presentation, consider what's on the slide, consider what you might have read in the book, and consider what's said in the audio file, and provide what you would take down in notes and a good, factually correct, detailed college level answer to that question. So basically, this would be like your classroom notes from this presentation if it was done face-to-face, but it's your classroom notes from the virtual lecture for these 11 questions. You will turn that in. The presentation in class would have been on Tuesday, November 28th, so I'll give you till Tuesday, November 28th at 8 p.m. to complete this journal activity and turn it in. So once again, consider it like the process of taking notes from a classroom presentation. Disclaimer, some of the information you might see on the PowerPoint, while several of the answers may only be provided in the audio. So if you don't listen to the presentation and pay attention and actively do this while you're watching it through, you're probably not going to find all the answers by just breezing through the text on the screen. All right, so journal activity number 8, you can either copy in from this slide or you can open it up in Canvas, copy and paste that to a Word document and follow along and just type in your answers as it goes, and then type your copy and paste your Word document or submit your Word document into Canvas for journal activity number 8. So today's presentation is managing your athlete's behavior. It has background from Chapter 8, managing your athlete's behavior, as well as additional information that I've got from other sources, as well as pulled from my experience. So it'll be some highlights from the chapter as well as information outside the chapter. Hopefully you've read Chapter 8, or you will read Chapter 8 to get some additional information on how to successfully manage your athlete's behavior. As we introduce Chapter 8, communication and motivation are two of the most important factors in successfully managing your athlete's behavior as a coach. So you have to be able to effectively communicate, and that requires both talking to or sending messages to and receiving messages from or listening to your athletes, as well as being able to effectively motivate. And as we talked about previously, that might just be setting the conditions to motivate athletes. We're going to have to then, if they're intrinsically motivated, or it might be providing some different things to actually help motivate them if they're extrinsically motivated. So we're going to have to figure out that push and pull system, because everybody's motivated differently, and it might be a combination of both. So communication and motivation are the two most important factors in managing athletes' behavior. A lot of the research comes in and shows that. So to positively impact athletes' behavior and successfully manage a team, a coach must be able to do both of these things. So communication requires a lot of different things. Effective communication, like I said, receiving communication. You're going to have to listen to your athletes. You're going to have to watch them and observe them, because not all communication is verbal. You're going to have to look at nonverbals. You're going to have to try to pry some things out of them, because they don't always share everything with their coach. All right, you're going to have to listen to other sources, but sometimes other sources don't give you the full story. All right, you're going to have to, we were made with 2 ears and 1 mouth. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to listen. You're going to have to watch. You're going to have to observe. And as a coach, we always want to talk. And then you're going to have to try to understand their language, because there might be an age gap. If we don't know what they mean, we're going to have to try to ask and figure that out. We might have to learn how to communicate on different platforms to be able to effectively communicate with our athletes. So then we also have to provide them messages that they can understand. So sometimes we have to, like I said, learn how to communicate on different platforms, use different things. You learn a different language, be able to say different things. Athletes a lot of times won't tell us they don't understand what they mean, because they feel embarrassed. So we have to then use some formative evaluation or assessment to see if they understand what we mean. So being able to communicate with athletes takes a lot of things to see if it's effective. And then we talked about motivation quite a bit in the past, in the previous module, but we're going to have to, every athlete is different, so we're going to have to use various motivational techniques. Think about the extrinsically motivated athletes, those that come from external sources. Pro athletes, most of them, not most, but some of them are rewarded by money. They're chasing that contract. They know they have to get good stats, be on a good team, chase that trophy. They want to win that championship. They want to get that next big contract. They're chasing the dollar sign. In Rick Pitino's book, Success is a Choice, said when I motivated college athletes, they were motivated by winning. They would run through a brick wall for you. If you could tell them how they could help the team, if they were like always wanted to play for me always wanted to play for Kentucky when I was the coach of Kentucky, I could tell them how they could make Kentucky win. If they were a kid from Kentucky, ooh, that was even better. But when I coached in the pros for the New York Knicks, they didn't care about the Knicks. They would only run through a brick wall for you if there was a bag of money on the other side. So you have to figure out what motivates people. So for extrinsically motivated athletes, you have to figure out what those rewards are that they want. Is it that they want to be respected by their peers? Do they want some money? Do they want some trophies? Do they want recognition? And that could be anywhere. Like, that doesn't have to necessarily just be athletes. If you're leading an organization, it could be the same thing, right? And then think about the intrinsically motivated people. Now, there's going to be combinations generally, but they want to be challenged. They want to have that area where they can grow. They're always trying to get there and then get somewhere better and then just be the best they can be. But you have to provide situations where they can then almost motivate themselves. The level of challenge has got to be there, but everything's got to occur and be systematic. It can't be too easy. It can't be too hard. The challenge has got to be there. So you're going to have to provide situations where you motivate people, where you find the right motivator, the right reward, and then you have to provide situations where athletes can motivate themselves too. So communication and motivation, there's a lot of factors and a lot of things. If you consider this like Jupiter, there's a lot of moons that go around there. There's going to be a lot of things, a lot of external things that go into both communication and motivation to make sure that you can be successful. And it requires that on both of these to successfully manage a team. So a lot of different variables go into that. And everybody's different. You're going to have to use different communication techniques and different motivational techniques with each individual athlete, and every team is going to be different from year to year. So I'm going to introduce you to managing a team. As we talk about team management, the team management influences everything you do with the team. It influences the quality of your practices, how well your practice runs, if it's fluid, if it's competitive enough, if people are learning different things, if there's good culture. And it also influences how things are in the game. Is your team together? Are they cohesive? Is there good team chemistry when they're facing challenging or competitive situations, whether it's in the game or if it's game-like, or if there's a challenge that comes about? So team management, how you manage your team, influences everything, whether it's a team meeting, whether it's on the field or off the field. So it influences the quality of your practice as well as the quality of your team's ability to be successful in game situations. So your management skills and abilities, and we can even call these leadership skills and abilities, will determine how really people perceive your abilities to be a coach. Because a coach is going to be a leader. You're going to be an instructional leader. You're going to be an organizational leader. You're going to be a team leader. So your leadership or management skills and abilities are going to determine how other coaches see you, whether it's your assistant coaches, whether it's other coaches in your school or organization, or opponents, like coaches you oppose. Administrators at your school or other schools. So administrators might be your athletic director or principal or superintendent or if you're not in a school situation, maybe it's the park superintendent or, you know, the CEO or ownership of a team, as well as parents, if you're working with youth, and your athletes. So you have to have good leadership and management skills, or nobody will perceive you're able to do your job. So think about that. You have to be organized. You have to understand your craft. You have to be dedicated. You have to have some passion. And then it goes back to those other two things. You have to have really, really good communication skills, and you have to understand motivation, because those are two important factors in managing behavior. Then you're going to have to pull in some different things. We're going to talk about some interpersonal skills and leadership skills. You have to have some empathy. You have to understand fairness. You have to understand ethics. It's going to all go back to your values and your philosophy. So as a coach, you're going to use various interpersonal leadership skills and abilities to manage your athlete's behavior. So think about it. You're going to have those communication skills. How do you motivate people? You're going to have organization. You're going to have to consider fairness, right? Fairness isn't always equity, but it's the ability to have empathy and understand situations, to use critical thinking and provide a reasonable decision in each situation, because they're all different. I told you I used situational leadership before. You're going to have to provide some kind of dedication. You're going to have good time management skills. You're going to have to show some passion. You're going to have to be able to be a good goal setter, but they're going to have to be realistic, but challenging and achievable. You're going to have to be open-minded at times, but you're going to have to build some kind of philosophy and stick with it. Not be afraid to change and stretch it, but don't veer too far from it. And you're going to have to be forward-looking and not resistant to change when it's a good thing. So there's all kinds of things there that go into interpersonal skills and leadership skills. You're also going to have good people skills. A lot of those I already mentioned, having good communication, but you're going to have some empathy for people. You're going to have to be able to build relationships with people, have good social currency, so to say, know when to give a little bit, know when not to die on a hill that doesn't mean anything, know when to, hey, I'll help you with that because I'm going to need some help later, even though it's something you don't want to do. So there's all kinds of different things you're going to need to learn how to do to develop those different interpersonal leadership skills. We'll talk about the positive discipline approach. So that's a big one we'll talk about next. But the positive discipline approach, what is it? It's a technique coaches use to manage athletes' behavior by teaching and reinforcing some of those interpersonal and leadership skills that they use. And we'll call those essential life skills. They're the building blocks to future leadership skills. Think of this as managing behavior by integrating character development that we talked about in the previous module. We're building those character skills or life skills that we want to see people carry on throughout life. So as we dig into the positive discipline approach, let's start out with discipline, because positive and discipline usually don't go together. Discipline is usually seen as a negative term because we associate discipline with punishment. But think about it for a few minutes. If you actually studied the word discipline, the root of the word discipline doesn't have anything to do with punishment. It is disciple. And not to get real religious, but if we go back to any of our religious knowledge or learning, a disciple is a person who follows the teaching of a mentor. So disciple, discipline, that doesn't go with punishment. That goes more with learning from somebody. So if we think of the positive discipline approach, we're more thinking of how somebody would positively follow a mentor that is trying to teach them something. So the positive discipline approach views discipline as a form of training somebody to develop skills like self-control in your followers. So discipline has to start, and you'll see the graphic at the bottom, with instruction, move to training, and then correction of bad habits to refine the skills that were taught in your instruction. So let's talk about that. Discipline starts with instruction. The instruction is where you teach the skills. You have to be an instructional leader first. You're going to have to build some drills, explain them, go through some different activities to develop those skills. We can't just say we're going to have good character here because we expect it. You actually have to have some activities to develop character skills, and character skills is what discipline is all about. Next, we're going to have that training. So we'll have the instruction, we'll teach about it, we'll have a couple of activities, but we're going to continue that with some different opportunities to learn the skill within our everyday activities. It might be an activity, it might be built within our practice sessions, we might continue to talk about it, but we need to have opportunities for people to develop those skills within the natural course of our team. And then finally, the last approach is we only have correction when there are mistakes. So we don't have to have punishment, we need to have correction. These are opportunities when something occurs wrong, when there's a mistake, for people to correct or refine the skills, have an opportunity to do it correctly. It might require some re-instruction or a new opportunity to develop the skill or learn the skill again in a different activity. And it might require occasionally some kind of corrective action. Hopefully it doesn't get to punishment. It might just be a consequence. So consequences don't always have to be punishment. So when people make mistakes, that's where the correction comes in. That's the last step. Hopefully instruction led to training. Training has opportunity to learn skills, but somewhere along the way, there's going to be mistakes. The biggest thing is we learn from our mistakes. So when using the positive discipline approach, you must distinguish between the two types of mistakes or misbehaviors that people make, right? So let's think about this. There's two types of mistakes? Yeah, there is. So when an athlete is still learning, they're still in the training process. They're trying to perform the skill or behavior, but they didn't do it right. Maybe they can't do it yet because they haven't mastered the skill. They're still learning it, right? They still need some additional training. That's okay. They're still in the learning process. They're making a mistake. Or part two. This might not be a mistake. This is where it becomes a misbehavior. When the athlete willfully misbehaves, they decide to not do what they're instructed. They might still be in the learning process. It might be a mistake, but they choose to not do it. It's not because they haven't mastered it yet. They willfully determine, I'm not going to do that. So it's a conscious choice, not just a skill breakdown. So the key to determining if you need to provide discipline or re-instruction, either one should have re-instruction, but where the focus is going to be is, do you need to provide more instruction and focus solely on that because they haven't mastered the skill yet? That's number one. They try to perform the skill, they haven't mastered it yet. Just immediately focus back on re-instruction and training. You can tell them they didn't do it right. Maybe there's a slight consequence, or maybe you remove a reward, but there's really no reason to do that. They just haven't learned it yet. Just stop, rewind, provide more instruction, and move on. They haven't performed the skill because they're not ready to yet. Or do they need correction because they chose not to do it? If they need correction, then that's when you got to start considering some other things. So as a coach, you should provide enough guidance to direct and teach. So this is tricky. It's a balancing act. So provide enough guidance to direct and teach the instruction part without directing so much that you don't allow them to have practice opportunities to have their own growth, to develop their own intrinsic motivation. You don't want to stifle their own mindset, their own creativity, their own ability. If you're always telling them what to do, they just wait on you. So they don't ever really learn. They're just waiting on you to tell them. They don't get those critical thinking skills. So we've talked about that before. Provide some guidance, direct and teach them, and then give them some opportunities to do it, and step back and give them an opportunity for some independent practice. And then step in and guide when you need to. Maybe have a discussion. Why did you do this? Why did you not do that? Okay, let's go back again. Even if they make a mistake, you can stop, reteach, let them have another opportunity to perform. So that's a balancing act, and you got to just figure out how that works. That's something you gain from experience. Beginning coaches tend to either, they don't balance it very well. They either don't talk enough, don't instruct, and let them play too much, or they over talk. So you got to find that sweet spot. So a quote here, John Wooden, the legendary coach from UCLA: if you're not making mistakes, then you're not doing anything. If you think about it, his focus was on learning and doing your best. If you're not, your goals aren't high enough if you're not making mistakes. And if you're not making mistakes, you're not trying to perform a new skill or behavior, because you don't always master things on the first try. So you're not doing anything. You're not working towards something that's new. So that's a really good thought process. You're going to make mistakes if you're trying something that's out of your comfort zone, or something that's new, or a goal that's higher. So good quote from John Wooden. So now we have to think about positive discipline and punishment. So which approach is better? So let's consider punishment versus the positive discipline approach. So some coaches resort to the command style, and they manage their misbehavior with negative discipline. This could be consequences, might be punishment. If you walk through a gym or a practice and you see athletes doing something wrong, you could see a lot of consequences going on. Team doing push-ups or doing running. A lot of team sport athletes refuse to run and get out of shape. You don't see a lot of players that are former athletes that played in team sports running 5Ks as they get older, because running became a punishment used by a lot of coaches, especially in the older generation. So a lot of coaches seem to manage misbehavior, and it's not always even misbehavior. It might be not meeting a specific goal. They manage that with negative discipline or punishment. So the negative discipline approach manages behavior, or not meeting a specific goal set by the coach, by using punishment in the form of possibly blaming the team or individual, shame. Oh man, that shame's awful. Or pain, right? And the pain, like I said, could be running and running and running. We're going to run until somebody throws up, and then we're going to run some more, or we're doing push-ups, or we're doing sit-ups, or we're going to do up-downs, or whatever the case might be. We're going to hold planks. It's usually some kind of form of conditioning. So this usually leads to some kind of negative feeling, a negative relationship between the participants and the coaching staff. They get upset with the coach. They really don't enjoy that practice session. The idea is, if we get them to have some fear of not reaching the goal or not doing what we tell them to do, they're going to fear this punishment, so they're going to do things the right way. But it really actually creates a negative relationship. They don't see the coach as a mentor or a partner in reaching the goal anymore, and it can lead to some hostility. Sometimes it's between the participants and the coach, and it might even be between the athletes on the team, because some people want to follow the coach, some people don't. They get upset with each other if it's a team sport and they didn't help them reach the goal. If it was, the athletes start perceiving that it's somebody else's fault that they didn't reach the goal and now they're running for them. So negative discipline approach can lead to negative relationships and hostility. So how does this look? How does this relate to motivation? Athletes may only try to succeed due to that fear of punishment. Hey, we got to be successful because we don't want to run. We don't want to get blamed on this. I don't want to have that feeling anymore. That can be a motivator. We're trying to avoid things, but that increases anxiety. Remember when we talked about psychology, when you have anxious moments and you're uncertain how things are going to be, when anxiety creeps in, you start getting tense. And when you get tense, you don't perform as well because you want loose muscles to have smooth movements. When anxiety increases, you also have a chance of increasing your levels of depression and decreasing a lot of levels of chemicals that lead to positive things. So you're going to decrease your long-term motivation, your motivation for wanting to build relationships and work with that coach, your motivation for wanting to build relationships and be on that team, and your motivation for wanting to be involved in that activity or sport. And those are the reasons that people like to be involved in that. They want to have fun. They want to compete. They want to be on a team. They want to be with their friends. A lot of times they like the coach. So when we use a negative discipline approach and provide punishment over and over, we're taking away the reasons that people like to participate. So this could lead to people quitting on us, not being motivated, and like decreasing their will or their passion for the sport or activity. On the flip side, the positive discipline approach can help create all the opposite feelings. It can help develop a team or family environment. It can help nurture an athlete's development because it reteaches, provides opportunities to learn. It actually promotes the development of self-esteem, provides opportunities for intrinsic as well as extrinsic motivation. There's opportunities for the athlete to respect and communicate with the coaching staff as well as their teammates. So this requires the use of a variety of activities. You have to have well-planned practices. You have to keep athletes maximally engaged. You have to use a lot of different motivational tactics. So positive discipline involves preventative discipline and corrective actions, and you always have to be on your toes, evaluating, observing, determining if an athlete's not able to perform. You have to monitor them, figure out what you got to do to reteach and get them to perform, or if they're willfully misbehaving. So it takes a lot of thought, observation, and effort and creativity from the coach to employ this positive discipline approach, but it usually leads to better long-term results if you look at all of the research done through psychology. So there are 6 steps of the positive discipline approach. We're going to go through them step by step. They're over here on the building blocks. Step 1 is create the right team culture. Step 2 is holding thoughtful and purposeful team meetings. Step 3 is developing team rules that lead to building positive character traits through the positive discipline approach. Step 4 is developing team routines to set people up for success within your team rules. Step 5 is conducting exciting team practices, and those practices have to have activities that develop those character skills. And then step 6 is catching people doing good, so you can provide them with praise and reward as they're building those character skills. So let's talk about the first step, creating the right team culture. That goes back to your philosophy, your values, how you're going to instill your values, the way you go about doing it, and building all those positive character traits, character education that we talked about before. So a positive team culture shows that the coach cares about their athletes' growth and development, and that they're really trying to care about their athletes' future because they're developing skills that are going to be important for them to be successful in life. It's not just about this specific sports skill or strategy. It's about all the different skills that you're going to need to be successful. Communication skills, leadership skills, positive character traits, and we went through all those different ones. These are going to be what you might call your pillars, your 5-6 pillars, your values. The best way you can do about that is to build them through input from your team so there's buy-in. So when you're developing the right team culture, remember it needs to be safe, both physically and psychologically. So you need to have a safe physical and psychological environment. You shouldn't be demeaning to your team when you're using some of that super negative consequences, punishment, blame, shame. That's not always a safe psychological environment. We have to be safe physically, so we need to get people in shape, but we can condition through different activities. And if we make our practices engaging and competitive and systematic and high energy, we don't have to just run people and do different physically demanding things to be unsafe physically. So how do you show you care as a coach? First of all, learn who your athletes are off the court, off the field. You can have different discussions with them, build some relationships. If the rules are, and if you have time are, can you go out to eat? Can you meet them between classes? Can you call them into your office? Can you go on some team building activities that aren't just around practice? It just depends on the level and the dynamic. If you're a youth coach that meets once a week, it might be harder to do that. If you're a college coach that's always around them, there's all kinds of different things you can do. But try to find ways that you can do that. Have some discussions when your athletes are stretching. Do they really need to count, or can you walk around and have a conversation with them? Try to listen to them. I always heard this from my actual church coach. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, son. You got to listen. Well, there's some truth to that. You have to listen to your athletes too. So try to listen to them, hear what they're saying, and it's not just always about the verbals. You got to observe them. You got to see what they're doing, not just what they're saying. And you got to have some conversations and pull some things out of them. Believe in your athletes. You have to believe in them. Show confidence. Always tell them, you're going to make this, you're going to do this. Like, confidence is fragile when you're dealing with young people, even when you're dealing with anybody. So have a lot of confidence in them, believe in them, support them. If they do something wrong, tell them they're going to do it right next time. So have a lot of belief in them. Like, don't put your head down when your best player fouls out of a game or gets hurt and go, oh man, we got to put whoever in. Don't ever let them hear you say that. Always believe in the next person up. Encourage them through their mistakes. If they have a bad game, make a bad decision, talk to them about that decision. They made a mistake. Remember, did they make a mistake or a misbehavior? A mistake is they're still learning. Hey, you got it next time. We're going to fix this. This is what we got to do to get it right. So encourage them through their mistakes. Misbehaviors are a different thing. Mistakes are they're still learning. We have goals to get it better. Respect them enough to involve them in team decisions, but you have to teach them about character and making good decisions and critical decisions. Involve them as much as you can in team decisions. It depends on the age group and the team you have, but try to involve them in some of the team decisions, whether it's help set team rules or team consequences, or maybe picking a drill or a play name, all kinds of different things you can do. I used to like having them do some activities at the end of practice where they pointed out somebody that did something good for the team, or somebody that may be the star of the game or the star of the practice, or give the pregame speech. Help them set personal challenging goals that are realistic, but then also set realistic challenging goals for the team. Don't set goals that are just all team-oriented, that aren't realistic, that aren't challenging. Try to do that individually. The best way you can go about it, especially when you get to maybe that high school or college level, is if you can sit down people, talk about some individual goals, develop your team goals as a culmination of individual goals. Don't make them like win-loss related, make them more skill related development. Even talk about your character building goals. What values and characters would you like to get out of this team that aren't wins and losses and points and touchdowns and goals? And then build your character development team routines and things around that, and then that's how you can show them you care. So the second step is scheduling purposeful and running organized and effective and efficient team meetings. So when we talk about team meetings, we're not just talking about the team meetings that are film study or game planning or done around when something was done wrong or putting out some team rules. We're talking about educational based team meetings where we're doing something to build culture in the team. So they're purposeful. We don't want to waste time with these though. They need, because we're going to take away some practice time, but we want to run great team meetings that are education based. So when we talk about educational or informational meetings, we might start our year off by talking about nutrition, the importance of effective nutrition, how you might cycle through some different eating things when you want to possibly carbo load, when you want to eat protein, when you the dangers of the high energy drinks with a lot of sugar, some of the different things you might want to stay away from during the season, off the season. You might want to talk about supplements, what might be banned from different things. The NCAA bans some specific supplements, but you might want to talk about what you should and shouldn't use and put in your body. You might want to talk about sleep cycles, the importance of sleep, rest, recovery, all that throughout the season, as well as the effect on life, your own psychology, especially when people get sick. You might want to talk about other things, around finals time, like making sure you have enough time off, time to study, effects on how you feel about yourself, and then talk about your strength and conditioning, like what we need to do in the off season, the preseason, during the season to keep your strength and conditioning up. So those could be some good topics, but you also want to talk about some other life skill type of things. Like when I coached college basketball, we brought in a banker and he talked about, hey, you just got in the mail, I'm sure, a thing about getting a credit card, $500 new student credit card. You can get $500 and you have zero interest, zero payments for 6 months, and you have another 6 months with no payments, but they're going to charge you interest. So everybody went and maxed out that credit card, got $500, and then they didn't make a payment for a year, but then guess what? They had 6 months worth of interest on that thing. So he talked about then what the minimum payment was, and he explained the minimum payment and what that interest was, and just paying the minimum payment and how much you were going to have to pay that off, and showed that in there. So then talked about putting like $25 in savings, and if you started putting money in savings when you were 18, like how much it would take to put away starting right then to have $1 million in the bank and be able to retire, and then what it took if you waited until you were 25 or 30 when you had your first job. So looking at educating people like financially and retirement and medical and insurance and things like that are really important, that you can add that to your educational, informational ideas depending on the age group of your student athletes. You can do anything around character education as well. Can we teach people about some of those different values that we brought up? Can we teach them about accountability? Can we talk to them about time management skills? Can we talk to them about equity? Can we talk to them about, working with people from possibly a disadvantaged situation? Do we want to do a Thanksgiving food basket collection and then giving those to the less fortunate? Do we want to do, possibly a leaf rake in the neighborhood to help people out? So what are some other things we can do on some character education? Do we want to have a meeting where we develop team goals or team rules where we let the team have some input, or team routines, or even discuss some team consequences? This is a great time to have some input from the team. If we have something that may be a problem within the team, maybe invite the captains in, or even the whole team to have a problem solving meeting. And then once in a while, Have a time where you exchange some compliments. With my people call these warm fuzzies, where you tell things good about something that happened. This teammate did this for somebody. This did this. Somebody did that. So you can always do some exchanging of compliments, especially when the season gets long or you've had a bad day. You can stop and like have some good. You want to share some of the good. So when you have your team meetings, yes, you're gonna, when you get to the point where you're studying game video or game planning or a scouting report, but we're talking about education-based character development concept type team meetings. As we get to step 3, you might do this in one of your team meetings, but you might do it somewhat with your coaching staff. You might involve your team, but you have to develop team rules. So you're going to have a thoughtful set of team rules. Rules provide your athletes with guidance on what's expected out of them. And these rules also are going to have to outline some consequences. Right? We're not always talking about punishment. Some of them are going to be punishment, but you're going to have some consequences to have some structure. And what you need to do is, when you do this, that's down a little further in the outline, you need to usually have some kind of range and have some kind of progressive discipline for rule violations. So if somebody does something the first time, but if it's over and over and over, or if they've had multiple things, I always like kind of having a range there where I could have progressive discipline for rule violations. I like to consider allowing some athletes to assist in developing some rules and consequences. I would give them some consideration, but I would generally have an idea what I was going to do. I would talk to them. I would then redraft what they had. Wouldn't always go with exactly what the athletes had, but I would give them quite a bit of input and let them assist. Make rules that you can live with and you plan to enforce. Don't make rules that you're not going to live with unless it's a school policy that you have to follow, or an NCAA or high school association rule that you have to live with and enforce. That's a different story. You can't deviate from that. But don't make rules that you're not going to enforce, that you're not going to live with, that don't fit your philosophy. Don't make so many rules that you have to overrule yourself either. Like, have enough rules that are going to cover some important situations, and then you can always have some other rules as needed. But don't make ones that you're really not going to follow, because then you get caught up. Like I said, progressive discipline for rule violations is people have things, try to have a little bit of a range. Enforce consistently and fairly. And what does that mean? Not enforcing rules is worse than not having rules. So try to be consistent, but you have to also be fair. And those are two different things. You're not always going to do the same thing every single time, because it might be progressive. Somebody might have had multiple other rule violations, so you might escalate a little bit. Every situation might be a little bit different. So you're going to have to use a little bit of situational rule enforcement when you're using your discipline or enforcing your rule violations with providing consequences. So try to be fair, have a little bit of empathy, a little bit of caring, but you still have to consistently enforce your rules and provide some fair consequences, and don't play favorites. Don't let your star get away with things, but be consistent. People should kind of know it is what it is with coach, right? And then look at your athlete code of conduct. If your athletic department has a code of conduct, if your school has specific rules, make sure you're in alignment with those things. If there's an athlete code of conduct with basic expectations, make sure your stuff's aligned with that. The other thing you might want to do is have players, have a meeting where you roll out your team rules to your players and your parents, and you get everybody to sign off on those, and you show some examples, and then you have those when I didn't know. Well, yeah, you did. Here's your signature right here. Most high school athletic departments have a code of conduct, as well as college athletic departments do too, that are required that athletes sign. So you can do that at the same time, have your team rules along with your code of conduct. Step 4, creating team routines. So routines are a little bit different than rules. Routines provide direction and expectations for different situations. It's just kind of how you go about doing different things. It's kind of think about your routine, your daily routine. What do you do when you first get up in the morning? Do you go to the bathroom first? Do you brush your teeth first? Do you check your phone first? Do you have to let your dog out first? So what do you do? What do you do first? Do you hit your snooze button 3 times first? So people get in routines. It's kind of the structure of what we do things. So routines provide direction and expectations. They provide some structure for various situations. So here's some examples of different routines you could have on your team. What are your locker room routines? Is there like a pregame routine? How do you handle people in the locker room? Do you have a locker room? How do people change into and out of practice uniforms or game uniforms? Is there some kind of pre-practice routine when you first get to the gym or the field? Is there some kind of thing you should do first? Like, should you jog first to get the blood flowing and then stretch out a little bit and then maybe, kick the soccer ball around a little bit with a partner and then, dribble a little bit? Like, what's your routine before you get going? How do you start practice? Is it on the whistle? Like, should you have gone through your pre-practice first? Or like, what's your starting practice routine? How do you transition between activities? I always like to make sure everybody put the ball on the rack. Like, you didn't roll it over wherever, because I didn't want balls all over the gym and somebody stepping on them and get an ankle. If you had a ball, you either threw it to a manager if there was a manager at the ball rack. Somebody might have thrown it to me if I asked for one, if I was a coach. But everybody put the ball on the rack. They sprinted to the base, because I would blow the whistle or yell, and I would say, I want everybody on the sideline, baseline, wherever it was, and then they had to get the ball on the rack and get there like immediately. So how do you transition between activities? What does the end of practice look like? Do people get to take 6 more shots, throw the ball, or do they have to do something and hustle to somewhere? Is there somebody else coming to use the field? Do they have to get to a bus? Like, are you going to go meet in the locker room afterwards? What's that look like? What are your game day routines? What do people do before a game? How do people act during the game? Is there a specific way you come on and off the field? Is there a specific way you get ready for an activity? What's it look like after a game? Can they go jump in the car with their parents? Do they have to ride the team bus home? Like, what's the locker room look like after the game? How does that all work? What about transportation? This is an important one to discuss, because if you're high school or elementary school or any type of school that's a public school, you have to consider the portal-to-portal law in Missouri, or rule at most places. You're responsible for your student athletes when they go to the game, when they come back to the game, and actually until they leave your school grounds and get home. So if they don't leave with the parent or with somebody that signs them out, and they don't leave your campus, you're still responsible for them. So you have to stay there, whether it's practice or a game or whatever the case. So how do you handle transportation? How do you handle your expectations for bus rides? Like, how do they act on the bus? That bus driver can go tell people in the community, oh man, after the game they were cussing and coach didn't say anything to them, and there's all kinds of different things. What about you have a weekend away game and you just have your kids get there? Like, what if they get in an accident on the way? So there's all kinds of things for transportation. You have to talk about those routines. How do people get on the bus? How do they act on the bus? Like, what's that all act like? Like, what is the transportation? How do they get to and from games and practice? Like, do they peel out of the parking lot afterwards, playing music that has 4 letter words in it? You have to kind of be careful with some of those things, especially when you're in a neighborhood school district. And then what about equipment? How do you handle equipment? How do you check it out? How do you collect it? This includes uniforms. You also have to be really, really careful. What about the end of the season? Because people might take that stuff, especially if it's a spring sport in a high school, like track, baseball, some of those sports, especially with seniors, they're done with school, and if they take that stuff, they might not ever bring it back, and you might not, if you don't get that back, you lose it. Like, so a lot of times I would have to make policies where I would have to have my coaches physically collect their stuff from their athletes. They would have to bring clothes. They would have to let them know beforehand. We're collecting every uniform the minute after the game's over. You're putting it in this bag. I'm watching you. And then the coaches would have to take it home or bring it to school and go to the laundromat and wash it. But equipment, uniforms, like how do you check it out? How do you record who has it? Because you're going to have that. When do you put fines in if they don't turn it in? How do you collect it? How do you care for it? How do you make sure that it's handled and the kids don't lose it during the season? So there's a lot of things that go in with routines to discuss. How do kids care for it during the season? Step 5, you have to plan, prepare, and conduct exciting practices that really develop not only the skills for your sport, those are the individual skills, but the skills for them to be successful in competition, whether it's a team game or individual competition, as well as all those character skills we talked about that fit within, your culture and your philosophy. So you're going to have to consider all those things we've learned through planning our different lessons. Think about our lesson plan, all of that scope, that sequence, that progression of skill development, how we learned those activities where we taught the basic skill, then we had another activity that sequenced it a little bit further, and then we had some kind of additional instruction. We had an activity where they had a little bit more flexibility. We didn't have as much individual instruction. They had that independent practice, and then we added all those modifications. We added extensions. So consider all of those different things. So if you don't have exciting practices, if you have practices where people are standing around and they get bored, that's when they're not making mistakes. They start misbehaving. Kids will flick each other in the ear when they're younger. They start pushing each other. They start talking when they get bored. They're not paying attention. They're not doing what they're supposed to do, and that's learning the activity, being involved. So when you have well-developed, exciting, fluid practices where everybody's involved, you have better practice sessions and your students or athletes are more involved. Think about this when you're considering your scope of activities. Drills should develop the skills that are used in a game in game-like experience. Now, when you're first teaching the skills and you have the basics, maybe not. But as people start developing the skills and get some more competence and some more expertise, try to make them in more of a game-like experience. You want to transition those skill development drills into more game-like drills. You don't want to just get out there and scrimmage, but you want to go away from a controlled setting into letting them make decisions and being a game-like experience and moving on to some drills that really make it more of a game. So they're using the drill or the skill in a game situation where they have to use those game decision-making skills as well. Try to do everything you can to limit time standing around. Don't have them standing in line, transitioning, listening to you talk over and over. Get them active and participating and getting as many repetitions as possible. Make sure your practice plan flows. Have it go, from one activity to the next. Don't go back and forth so much that it's mentally taxing. Try to have a good flow. If you're working on defensive individual skills, then work on some team individual skills, and then, if you're working on offensive individual skills, then go from one-on-one stuff to small team stuff to larger team stuff. So try to have a mental and physical flow. You're not going to want to have peak activity all the time either. You're going to want to have it go kind of up and down on the physical activity so people can catch their breath. Know when to deviate from the plan. Sometimes you have to back off the intensity. Sometimes people just aren't getting something, so you're going to have to change the plan. Sometimes you went long enough on a drill. Sometimes they kind of pick it up. Sometimes it's just not working. It's time to scratch it and go on to something else. So know when to change things up. Find ways to practice character, integrate them in some of your drills or have some kind of character development thing. And then always find ways to plan some kind of fun. Like, can we do a last second shot? Can we do a 2-minute drill? Can we have a scoring opportunity? Can we do something just to have some fun? Like, find ways to plan and integrate fun in there, and it could be in a transition, it could be a drill, it could be a play. Plan some fun in your practice every day. So the last step, try to catch your athletes doing something good. All right. So this is where you can provide rewards. Sometimes it's just almost a pat on the back where it becomes an intrinsic reward, but this is where you get to reward, recognize appropriate behavior. This helps reinforce your expectations, build your team culture, provide a positive climate, point out good things to other people on your team, to your coaches. Sometimes you do it in front of other people. You can even recognize, with tokens, you give somebody possibly a golden ball that they get to carry around. I used to take old balls at the end of the season instead of just giving them away, or ones that were worn out, and I would get gold spray paint and spray paint them, and then maybe get the art teacher and have them stencil something on there, and we would use those as some kind of reinforcer for an award, whether it was a sportsmanship award or a hustle award, and then I would give that to somebody and they would get to carry it around until the next person got it, and then, oh, sorry, Timmy, I got to take it away from you and I got to give it to the next person. So it didn't really cost me anything, but it was like people wanted that. It was fun. All right, so it rewards expectations, and guess what? Everybody else in school got to see him carry around the gold ball. So it was pretty cool. Like, other people outside our program started asking about it, and then it became like that badge of honor. So here's some sample awards. You might give a sportsmanship award. When I was at McClure, we started giving a sportsmanship award. So every sport got to choose, all their coaches got together and they voted on it, their sportsmanship award for the season, and they had to have some criteria. And at the end of the year, the company that did our sports pictures did a big banner up, and we gave put their picture on the banner. And the next year we hung that banner. They made like 3 up for us, and we would put them in our different facilities in our gym, and we had some traveling ones, whichever outside facilities we were using, and we recognized them with a medal too. They got a medal. So, like, after 4 years, like, there were the pictures up there, and that was the only thing we did. We didn't do that for MVP, for anything else. So we had one wall that had these like 4 different banners of sportsmanship awards, and that was the only thing annually that at this time we were putting our pictures up for, and people would come in, and it ended up being a pretty cool thing, and people were striving to get that sportsmanship award. Academic awards. We used to have it every season. We would have our students invite their favorite teacher to a game, and then their parents, and we would have like cookies and punch before a game. And if it was an event where we had a PA and enough of a fan base, we would have them walk out with their, like, on senior night with their favorite teacher and their parent, and give out academic awards too. If they had honor roll, we gave out a certificate. So that was a pretty cool thing. Sometimes we like to do that at a rivalry game near the end of the season against one of our local schools. I used to give practice player awards every now and then. Like, somebody went really hard, I would get a local restaurant to give me some kind of dinner, or maybe had some old uniforms or something like that laying around. I would, somebody usually, and it wasn't one of my star players, but somebody that just really later in the season deserved it, or I was working really hard for a while and weren't getting rewarded with a ton of extra playing time, I would give them a practice player of the week or day award. Any kind of goes along with some kind of extra effort award. It could be on or off the field. They went and picked a teammate up or helped somebody change a flat tire, or it might even be effort in the community. Other type of team awards, they did something for the team that they didn't have to do. Community service awards too. We used to make our team do so much community service to earn either their practice gear or their warm up or their travel stuff. And then doing something that's hard or difficult. Something that's hard. Pick something that's really, really hard. Sometimes it's like a defensive effort, or really going above and beyond. Like, I've seen teams that, like, if you lifted so many weights, or you made so many shots, or you came to so many summer events or whatever, earned like, a t-shirt or a sweatshirt or whatever, they got in the whatever club. But when I was at Scott City High School, it was my first paid coaching job when I was in college. I was an assistant coach. And over that span, I think we won almost 100 games and lost less than 10 in a 3-year period. So we were in the top 10 in the state all 3 years. Won 3 district championships and multiple sectional championships. And hadn't won one in like 20 years before that. So just had a nice 3-year stretch. But we came down and had a lot of different things. So our Doing Something Hard award, we had a couple of them, but the one we wanted our team to really play hard defense. And we found one of the toughest things to do at that time, this was in the late 90s, mid to late 90s, was to get people to take a charge. And we played full court defense and trapped and stuff, so people were generally kind of going full speed. So we decided we wanted to get people to take 3 charges in a game. If you could take 3 charges in a game as an individual, not a team, that was hard. That was difficult. So we basically said, if you take 3 charges in a game, you get a steak dinner, because you're tougher. There used to be a saying, you're tougher than a $2 steak. That was one of those old cowboy movie things. If you get 3 charges in a game, you're tougher than a $2 steak, but you know what? There aren't any $2 steaks around. You know, $2 steak's pretty tough. That's the worst cut of meat. But we're going to take you out to a steak dinner. And man, it was great. We'd get kids out there and they'd get a charge and they'd get up and they'd start giving them, I'm going to eat. And they'd get the second charge and they'd start rubbing their belly and act like they were cutting up a steak. And through that, if you played on the JV or the varsity through that year, I think we ended up buying about 8 steak dinners. And before that, I don't know if I've ever seen anybody get 3 charges in a game at any high school level that I've ever thought of. But so Scott City High School, if you took 3 charges in a game, you got a steak dinner for doing something hard. So corrective discipline. So positive discipline involves instruction, training, and correction for the purpose of helping people or your athletes develop some kind of skills. So we're going to have to correct people on their sports skills. We're going to observe them, see what they're doing wrong. We might see that their elbow's out here, they're stepping with the wrong foot, they're not following through, they're not keeping the eye on the ball, they're dipping their head. So we're going to have to make some corrections to help our athletes develop sports skills, but we're also going to have to make some corrections in life skills along the way. So we're going to have to teach them some things. We're going to have to go back and re-instruct, provide them some opportunities to do things over, but we want to teach them some of those character skills or life skills that they want to use after they're done with our program and moved on to life. So when using the positive discipline approach, the coach needs to minimize the negatives of punishment, right? We're going to have some consequences, but we don't want the consequences to be blame, shame, or pain of punishment, right? We want them to be something where, hey, you need to stop this, have a consequence, some self-discipline, correct your actions, and move on. So we want to motivate the athlete to perform and behave as a responsible person, being a responsible team member, and to provide themselves with self-discipline. We shouldn't have to discipline our athletes. They should be able to discipline themselves, just like motivation. We want to provide the structure and the conditions where they motivate themselves. We want to do the same thing. The positive discipline approach should provide the structure through rules and routines and the thought of consequences where athletes can learn to provide themselves with discipline. So punishment, we got to remember, just like that extrinsic stuff and motivation, it only works phenomenally in the short term. Punishment only works in the short term, where positive discipline helps develop lifelong skills. If people learn self-discipline, they develop the lifelong skills to understand rules and standards and laws, understand policies, and be able to regulate themselves to stay within compliance. We don't want to ever deal out punishment when we're angry. So don't retaliate to a situation or even a person, say they're talking back or whatever the case, in anger. Don't give them punishment and disguise it as discipline. Don't kick somebody off the team because you're mad at them. I would always, and I talked to my coaches when I was an athletic director, never ever kick anybody off the team. You might eventually get there. Don't ever discipline anybody when you're mad. You might want to kick them out of practice or send them home. Come back, we'll have a meeting tomorrow. If you're ever mad, you feel yourself red in the face, like, I'm going to suspend you. We'll come back and talk about it tomorrow. How long am I suspended? Until we have a meeting, so it's indefinite. What's indefinite mean? I don't know how long. Indefinite is indefinite. That's not definite yet. We'll figure it out. So you can always come back later and determine what the suspension is going to be. If you kick somebody off the team, then do you have to eat your words and let them back on? Don't make anything definite. You can always suspend somebody indefinitely. You can meet, you can find a little more information, you can maybe not be mad, but don't retaliate when you're angry. Don't give punishment when you're angry. Don't disguise discipline as anger. So if you ever feel yourself being red in the face or somebody's talking back to you and you're getting angry, just remove them or yourself from the situation and meet on it later. You can always kick somebody out of practice. I've had to do that several times. So don't let your buttons get pushed to give punishment. So remember, misbehavior should lead to a consequence, though. So consequences for misbehavior, they need to follow your team rules and expectations. Don't make punishment seem punitive. Follow those team rules that more than likely, especially as you escalate the age of your team, they probably had input in, as well as they understood. They probably signed off on them. So make sure those consequences for misbehavior follow your team rules. So we have to understand misbehavior. So if we're going to have to correct it and provide some kind of consequence, we have to understand why people decide to misbehave. And now we're not talking about mistakes here. We're talking about misbehavior, where people decide not to follow directions. They willfully misbehave. So there are two reasons that athletes willfully misbehave. They are either discouraged or they feel like they don't belong. They're not a part of the team anymore. They're not a part of the group. All right? So if they're discouraged, you should try to find out why they're discouraged. Why do they feel like they can't do it? Is it they don't think they necessarily have the skills, right? Or maybe the goal's set too high. Maybe they have bad conditions at home. Maybe they were having a bad day. They broke up with their girlfriend. They're having trouble, or boyfriend. They're having trouble with academics. They're having some trouble with some friends, right? Maybe they're just kind of discouraged with their role on the team. Or number two, they feel like they don't belong. There could be a lot of reasons they feel like they don't belong. Some of that could be what I listed in number one. They feel like they're not adequate. All right, they, don't feel like they kind of cut it. They're on the second or third team. They feel like they don't really mix with the group. They're an outsider. Maybe they have a good enough skill level, but they're an outsider. Maybe we got to be careful. Was there some hazing incident? Maybe they come from a different culture or background. Maybe they just don't fit in. Maybe they're like the really, really smart kid and they study a lot and they don't hang out with the team, and this team has a little bit of a different social group. Maybe they feel like they don't belong because they don't necessarily have the skills. So there's a lot of different reasons. So you're going to have to get into that either. Do they need a certain amount of attention, to feel like they belong there? Is it something maybe you're doing? Right? Is it you're not providing them with enough praise or enough motivation? What is it? So when people don't obtain the attention they need from positive behaviors, coach isn't talking to me, isn't coaching me up, they tend to do anything they need to seek attention. They seek attention in any way they can get it. That might be by doing things wrong. So people like to hear their name, they like to get attention, they like to be seen and heard. So this may lead to them seeking attention through negative behaviors. That could be them just doing something wrong. So if they do something wrong, they willfully misbehave, they get some consequences. At least coach is paying attention to them, their friends are paying attention to them, people see them. So that happens sometimes. That happens in the classroom when you're talking about classroom management too. So the coach, when we're looking at these two reasons athletes willfully misbehave, the coach should first try to find the underlying cause of this misbehavior. So you might have to communicate with the athlete. You might have to sit down and talk to them. You might have to have a one-on-one individual meeting. You might have to talk to their other teachers. You might have to talk to their friends. You might have to talk to their parents. Determine why are they discouraged? Why do they maybe feel like they don't belong? And then develop a plan to help correct the behaviors. All right, so it might have to come from a variety of sources, and then you might have to sit down and talk to them again, pull all that information together, determine what it really could be, and then work with them individually to develop a plan to correct those behaviors to hopefully get the willful misbehavior to stop and get them back on track. So how do we correct misbehavior? We have to make that plan to correct the misbehavior. So after we find the underlying cause, let's make a plan. So what are some strategies for correcting misbehavior? If it's a minor offense, easiest way, we don't want to waste a lot of time on it. We don't want to give that attention-seeking behavior more attention, but we don't want to take away our ability to coach and teach and instruct from the people that are doing the right thing. Just request a change in behavior, acknowledge it, tell them they're doing wrong, correct it, ask them to correct it, and move on. So don't spend too much time in a practice or a game. You might ask them, hey, we're going to discuss this afterwards, and have a private meeting with the player afterwards. Just move on and keep your focus and your practice and your game on what's important. Acknowledge it so everybody else knows that you saw it, so they don't think, oh, they can get away with it, I'll get away with it. Request a change, tell them you'll discuss it more later, and move on. You might need to pull them out of a game or sit them out in a practice or change the pecking order a little bit. If it breaks a team rule, if it's not just a minor offense or it continues to escalate, it might be the same thing. You might want to request a change, sit them down, tell them you're going to meet with them later so you're not taking your focus and time away from a practice or a game, but then provide that consequence. Be fair and consistent with your consequence. Escalate it if you need to, all right? But be fair and consistent, provide that consequence. Make sure you're trying to find the underlying cause of the misbehavior. Try to find a plan to correct it, but provide that consequence and be fair and consistent. So here's a couple of important guidelines when you administer discipline or consequences. Be predictable. People should understand what's coming. Yes, you're going to have to take some situations into consideration. You're going to have to try to be as fair and consistent. But for the most part, when people do something, they should understand what's coming. Be as predictable as possible. Be specific. So when you're administering that consequence, tell people, this is why you're getting this consequence and this is what I need you to stop doing. So why are you doing this? Trying to find that underlying cause. What do we need to do to get you to stop doing this? Okay, and this is what I need you to stop doing. Avoid lecturing over and over and over. All right. If it's misbehavior, you might have to have a talk. If it's a mistake, move on. All right. Avoid just continuing to lecture. Be confident when you discipline. So don't go back and forth or, oh, let the team vote on it or let me think, be confident, be predictable, specific, ask them what to stop doing, be confident, give it to them and move on. Remain calm. Don't get red-faced. Don't get mean. Don't think about retaliating or being angry. Just remain calm when you give the discipline. Don't attack the person. Don't say you are. Address the behavior. When you did this, this behavior is not what we accept on this team. So try to not attack the person. Don't say you're lazy. Say, by showing up late, this is what occurred. All right. And then after the consequence is over, try to forgive them. Don't just keep in the doghouse forever. Provide the consequence, move on. Yes, you might have to keep them in a certain pecking order for a little while, but don't just keep hitting it on it and hitting on it and hitting on it. Give them the consequence, have the talk about it, move on from it so they can try to earn their way back to wherever they should be. Here's some additional important tips about discipline and consequences. Remind your athletes the appropriate behaviors when you sense misbehavior might be coming. So if you kind of sense that something's going to go wrong, like stop, maybe this is an opportunity to do some kind of character development activity, talk to them about this is what is the appropriate behavior. Remember to address the behavior. Do not assassinate the character of a person. So try not to point at people and say you and this and that and the other. Like, talk about the behavior. Help athletes understand that their actions and decisions led to the consequences. I'm not doing this. I'm not disciplining you. You know, you did this, therefore this is what happened. It's your actions and decisions. So what do we have to do to help you make better decisions? All right, so I did this, not coach did this to me. Okay. Consequences should be a loss of privileges. All right, they lose the ability to play in the first quarter, play in the next game, be a captain. All right, go to practice today, which if you don't practice, you don't get to play, whatever the case might be. But removing them from the team should be a last resort. So we want to look at things like suspensions, all right, different things like that. So let them see you rewarding athletes for doing things right, because people like to see rewards. So when you reward people for good sportsmanship, for showing up on time, for practicing hard, for having good academics, that is that positive motivation that people want to see. I want to be a part of that. When things are good, people like being a part of good things. So let everybody see you're rewarding people for doing the right thing, and then maybe they want to be on board. Try to use some nonverbals too. It's not always about just saying the right thing or saying the wrong thing. When you see something going wrong or you see somebody doing a little bit, you don't always have to tell them to stop. Sometimes you can change your proximity or walk up to them and get closer to them. You can nod the head. Sometimes you can give a specific look. That could be the good look or the bad look. Sometimes a thumbs up, sometimes a whoa, stop. All right. So you can use nonverbals in discipline, whether it's positive or a little bit of, stop it. And then when you have to provide some discipline or consequences, try to avoid those public confrontations, because you don't want to have a public confrontation. All right. Discipline in private. Right, you might tell somebody, hey, we're going to do whatever, but you need to stop. You need to let some of your times your athletes need to see that you acknowledge that things are wrong, but try to avoid public confrontation, because you don't want to really get in an argument with your athletes. Have the meeting in private and avoid those confrontations and provide those consequences in private, but as well as sometimes some of those things could be construed as a FERPA violation. So we talked about discipline. Let's turn that around. We don't always have to provide consequences. When we want to talk about the positive discipline approach, we want to try to avoid consequences. The best way to do that is develop that positive climate and culture. We want to draw people in. We want people to see that we're doing things right here, that they want to be a part of it, and then we get people to be on board. So we want to reward athletes. So reward performances, not just the outcome. We don't always just want to reward that things went well, that we won the game. Reward when people learn something, that they have a personal best, that they did something right. Maybe this is the first time they got it perfect, or that they did, like, reward the performance. Sometimes you do things really, really great and you don't end up on the top on the scoreboard. So reward the performance, not just always the outcome. Consider rewards for athletes or people for giving more effort, right? Think of providing all kinds of effort. Did they go really hard? Did they go above and beyond? Did they do something way, way outside, like the super hustle? Once again, more than just always winning a contest. Think about the little things. Sometimes people always think about the big things, the game winner, field goal or shot or this or that or the other, but reward the little things. Sometimes you got to look at short-term goals or actions. Did somebody do something extra in the weight room? Did they do something extra in practice? Did they stay after? Did they do extra this? Did they do extra that? Did they meet a short-term goal? Did they do a short-term action that could lead to long-term success? So try to reward some of those little things along the way, because effort, short-term goals lead to success, and long-term goals, success. So reward the learning. This should be more frequent when first learning the skill. So when you're putting a new skill out there, a new drill, something we're first doing, reward all that learning, whether that's just positives. It could be a verbal reward. Provide immediate feedback, whether it's you're doing this right or you need to correct this. It needs to be immediate. It needs to be appropriate. We've talked about that with our learning how to give feedback. And then you can pare that down, and it can be less frequent, whether it's rewarding the learning or the positive feedback when athletes are close to mastering skills. And if they're doing something wrong, that's when you can ask them, hey, what do you think you're doing wrong? You don't have to always tell them, you can ask them, and that's when their kinesthetic feel should kick in, and they should be able to use some critical thinking skills, and they're close to mastering those skills. Reward the performance of all those positive life skills. Anytime they do something right with their character skills, reward those. Is it a good sportsmanship act? Did they do something extra in the classroom? Is it good academics? Did they go above and beyond? Did you see that they did something in the community? All right. Did they help a classmate out? What kind of positive life skill do they have? Can we reward that? And then make sure you reward athletes only when they've earned it. Don't provide rewards for just providing rewards. That's sort of like giving extra credit. I'll give you extra credit so you can get an A. No, reward athletes when they've earned it. So let's make sure they earn things, because we need people to realize you have to work towards a goal to earn the goal. We don't want to minimize that there has to be work and effort involved. So let's get to today's assignment. So by reading the chapter 8, and considering all the things we've learned along the way and the information today on consequences, rewards, discipline, we're going to consider how to develop some team rules, all right, and what the rules are going to entail. So this needs to be something you individually develop. You can't copy and paste this from somewhere, so don't do that. I need you to be creative in this. It needs to be original work. So what you're going to do, you're the coaching candidate. You're going to develop a detailed set of team rules, and you're going to follow the outline here. There's a little bit more information, like usual, on Canvas to give you a little bit more structure. You're going to pick an athletic team. You're going to use the format provided here and closely follow the assignment outline. All work must be college-level writing, so don't just scratch something down. It must be original work. Don't copy and paste from a website. Try to be creative on this, and try to follow some of the guidelines and some of the learning, align it to what we've learned throughout your coaching. Think about your character, think about academic expectations, think about some of the things we've learned here in this virtual lecture. So in A, you're going to provide the sport and the level. What do I mean by that? Is it men's or women's soccer? And the level, is it high school? Is it college? Is it community-based at a certain grade level? Is it pro? So give me the sport and the level. And then a statement of expected character. And I have that listed exactly what I mean by that on Canvas. It's going to be, a paragraph of this, this, and this. Your academic expectations for the team is part C. It's going to be like what are the expectations in class, to attend class, your grade point average, study hall, if you don't reach a certain grade point average. So there's going to be some different bullet points under that. What is your attendance? So that's attendance in class, in team meetings, in practices, and then you're going to have 5 important team rules that don't relate to those first 4. So it can't be about academics or attendance. All right, so can't be related to B, C, or D. So you're going to have 5 other important team rules. So with that, you're going to explain your team rules. You're going to describe what it is, and then you're going to detail some progressive consequences. So if you first time, it could be this, and it could be up to this if you do it multiple times. So look at the assignment on Canvas. That just kind of gives you an outline. That gives you some more structure. And be creative and kind of think of this if you were a head coach of a team, and develop those important rules, and think about those things as you go. So consider what we talked about with consequences and positive discipline, and go back to maybe your notes in your portfolio on character. You might want to try to align this to your philosophy and your values. The deadline for this is going to be Wednesday, November 29th. So you got a day to work on this. That's due at 8 p.m. I'll go over the other assignment. Make sure you remember your Chapter 8 journal assignment's due today. It depends on when you watch this, but it's due Tuesday, November 28th. So here's your assignments. I'll give you all the assignments for Module 12. The ones highlighted are due for this virtual lecture. So your Chapter 8 journal assignment, that's due Tuesday, November 28th. You'll have access to this before that. So hopefully you completed your journal. That's basically taking notes along with the virtual lecture, the audio-enabled PowerPoint. That was your 11 points. That's basically just like taking notes on the 11 most important parts of this lecture. Turn that in to Canvas. It's due Tuesday, November 28th by 8 p.m. And some of the things were from the slides you could look at, and some of them were just from the audio. The assignment that you will do based on understanding Chapter 8 reading material as well as the presentation is developing team rules. Make sure you look on the Canvas assignment page because it gives you a lot more of the structure. Follow the outline A, B, C, D, and E for developing team rules. So you're going to develop team rules, follow the outline, you're going to pick a sport, you're going to put a statement of expected character, your academic expectations, your attendance, 5 other important team rules, and you're going to provide some progressive consequences for each one. That's due 8 o'clock Wednesday, November 29th. What's coming up? You should read Chapter 18 before Thursday's presentation to prepare yourself for that. We will do a journal assignment. That presentation will be posted and ready to go. You can get to that early. It'll be just like this one. You should attempt to do the journal assignment or activity while you are watching the audio-enabled PowerPoint. Fill out the journal, turn that in. It's due Thursday, November 30th by 8 p.m. When you get done with that, you'll be prepared to complete the assignment selecting team captains. That's due Friday, November 1st at 8 p.m. And then make sure you're working on your final project that pulls all of Module 10, 11, and 12, the coaching unit together. That's your culminating project or final project for the coaching segment of this course. It's due Saturday, December 9th. You can always turn it in early, but make sure you closely follow the outline on that personal philosophy of coaching. If you've done that before, you'll have the alternative activity of the personal philosophy of teaching physical education. All right, so the final thing here is the reminder for your culminating assignments. So your observation log, your final version is due Friday, December 1st. You have to complete your full observation to turn that in. You have to take a picture of it It needs to be fully completed and filled out with all of your hours line by line and signed. It needs to have your hours totaled at the bottom. If you're in EDU 417H, the health version, or PEP 417, the coaching version, you have to have 20 hours. If you're in PEP 417P, the physical education teaching version, you need 30 hours. You must be fully completed by December 1st, or you will not pass the class. If you do not turn that in fully completed with a picture of it, you're not allowed to do part 2, which is the observation reflection paper. If your observation log is turned in fully completed, complete the observation reflection paper on Saturday, December 2nd or before. Do not turn any of those late. We're on a tight window to get those graded. Make sure you get those turned in. Follow that assignment outline closely. You need to follow the MTS standards or Lincoln University Health and Wellness standards. That's the outline. Align your paper with examples from each of those standards based on your observation and tie it into what we've learned in class. That's a reflection paper that is the signature assignment for the class and should tie everything we've learned to class into your reflection and as the culminating paper that ties everything we've learned into this class together. Your observation presentation, Tuesday, December 5th. We will meet again, but not in the classroom. So that is at regular class time. So make sure at 9:25, Tuesday, December 5th, you are on Zoom. The Zoom link is sent an announcement. I gave it to you prior to Thanksgiving. There's a page enabled on Canvas with the link in it. So make sure you've tested your computer to make sure your audio and video work and you've prepared your observation presentation. You need to do the first 2 assignments to be able to do the observation presentation. Follow that outline closely. There's an outline. I've given it to you. It's on the assignment. It's also on the page for the observation presentation in Canvas that has the link and everything. So you're basically going to give a 5 to 7 minute presentation. Everybody will just go, we'll get online. You'll view everybody else's. You'll give yours on Zoom. So make sure at 9:25 or before, I'll have the link up by 9:05 or 9:10 ready to go. So we'll have our observation presentations. We'll have everybody give that in the Zoom classroom and talk about their observation. You will follow the outline and provide some different examples. You don't do a PowerPoint or anything. You can talk from the outline and it's more of a discussion, and we'll have a Q&A at the end of each one. You will have a PowerPoint in Module 13 that ties together some of the things we did for character development. There'll be an assignment letter of gratitude. We will have another virtual presentation, so I'll have it posted by Monday of December 4th. So you'll watch that audio enabled PowerPoint that week. You can start that early if you want, but it'll be due Thursday, December 7th. We will not have a class meeting that day, but you will have watch the PowerPoint on Canvas and complete the assignment letter of gratitude. Make sure you have your personal philosophy of coaching final project due. For the coaching unit, the deadline Saturday, December 9th. There's no late assignments accepted there, so don't procrastinate. I need you to turn that in. If you have it done early, get that turned in early because I have to get final grades turned in, so I won't be accepting that late. The course post-test, the final deadline is Tuesday, December 12th at 8 p.m. You should be able to take that starting anytime Monday, December 4th, so you can we'll have all of our material done by then, so the test will be open by then. So consider taking that course post-test early. That's basically one or two questions from every module throughout the course. It's a culminating summative activity. It's basically a replay of the pre-test. It's online, and you don't get to use your notes or your book. It's timed. You'll just go through, answer the questions, and you should then analyze your score compared to your pre-test and determine how much better you've done on the post-test than the pre-test to see how much you learned in the class. So make sure you consider all those culminating assignments and activities. You plan your time accordingly. You make sure you're working that reflection paper for the observation, and your personal philosophy of coaching are going to take some time, so make sure you're working on those. All right, have a great day. Remember, we'll have another virtual presentation for Thursday of this week, and Tuesday of next week, be prepared to be on Zoom and give your observation presentation.